need to move these crinkly crackers. Yep,
when I was in college, I used to always, like, I didn't realize it until it was time to eat, but, like, I always had the noisiest snack.
Does anyone understand ASMR? Like, why is it a thing? Why do people like it? Am I old? I don't get, like, I understand what it is, but I don't get why it's like that.
I don't like it.
No. I actually, like, it does the opposite for me.
Wait, Charlotte, can we make a rule that you can't say you're old anymore?
I mean, maybe we are all collectively old. There are definitely things that I just have acknowledged I've aged out of.
Yes. I just love the volume one. Am I old or is the volume too high on this?
My mother used to be like, turn the TV down. And we'd be like, all right. But like, it sounds good to us.
Yes.
Or it's very true. And I do it also. You turn the volume down when you're backing up in your car.
Yes.
You do that, right? Isn't it crazy?
Absolutely.
I'm like, everyone be quiet. Be quiet. And I like turn it and I'm like, and
or
then they're all
me.
No.
All right, we should get started.
Welcome to Just for Moms. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Kallie. We are regular moms
talking about regular stuff like
aging, parenthood,
work-life balance,
and figuring out what's for dinner again.
A no judgment zone to talk, laugh,
and maybe cry about all the things women think about on a daily basis.
All right, welcome back, friends. This is Just for Moms. I'm Caitlin. I'm here with Charlotte, Kallie, and Megan. I want to start this episode off by reading a quote that I read in an article that I thought was really just one of those quotes that made me think. So the quote is, "Friendship is about preparing a space for authentic conversation, and sometimes authenticity happens when everything is a bit scruffy." So that quote came from an article called "What is Scruffy Hospitality?" And it is this new wave accepting that your house is not going to be perfect when your friends come over, because it should not be perfect. And like the best things and conversations happen when it's just casual and not planned. So I thought it would be a really fun conversation starter to ask you guys, if you know someone is coming to your house and you only have a very limited amount of time, what is the one chore or one thing that you do to kind of make your house look more presentable than it actually is?
So our house, we have like a kitchen sunroom area, which is when people come over, we just hang out there and stand around the counter. And I am not a empty counter type of a person. I cannot achieve that goal, but I can definitely tighten things up. So I will try to, even if the sink has stuff in it, I'll just try to clear that main kitchen counter and organize whatever piles of stuff are on the other counters. And then the kids typically just walk out of their shoes. And so I will take the shoes that are midway in between the space and like put them to the side. So it's not cleaning, it's tidying. And I just make it so it doesn't look, I might put the blankets off the floor onto the chair, but it's,
fix the pillows.
Yeah.
Mine's almost the same. I have a rule that I use in YouTube, and I call it my flat surfaces rule. So it's like I don't focus on anything that's cleaning. I'm not like wiping or sweeping. I'm just trying to remove things from flat surfaces. So like I would start with either kitchen counters or the dining room table, and then if I had time, I would move to other flat surfaces. But it's just like taking stuff that's on flat surfaces just collect shit. So it's removing the stuff from the flat surfaces. That's what I would do.
Right. And then obviously dust the baseboards.
Right. Of course.
Of course. Megan, what about you?
Before we have house guests, I go around to all the bathrooms and flush the toilets.
That's good.
That's a good one.
I feel like I flush our toilets all day long. Like I go in every bathroom and I'm like, oh, he took a shit before he went to the wall. Great. And just left it there. Thanks.
Yep.
I mean, it's been floating for 2 hours. Wonderful. Like
I
get nervous. I get nervous that that's going to be in there when they go to pee. And I just we only have 3 bathrooms in our house. The playroom one has been broken for 6 years. Don't even get me started on that. So yeah, I just flush all 3 toilets and hope for the best.
Yeah.
What's yours,
I vacuum. I don't know, I would say flat surfaces, and then I vacuum like our entry, like the main room that you're going to walk into. I make sure that room is vacuumed, because on any given day, at any time of day, there's usually some sort of evidence of whatever Arbor's eaten for the day. So I just like clean up those crumbs. I maybe fix the pillows on the couch, and I'll light a candle, because sometimes when it smells nice, people don't notice like everything else that's going on in the house.
She tells herself.
I love this whole concept, though, because it is this funny catch-22, because I think all of us can agree there's a sweet spot between like tidying a house and like if I were to walk into my friend's house and like there wasn't a place to move, that I would argue is probably like I might not feel as welcome. So you like there is a sweet spot, but then I was also thinking about friends that don't, ask for help, or they sort of present this very perfect image to the world. And, I think all of us want to be simultaneously like showing that we have our shit together, but also be vulnerable. And it's like there's this weird inflection point, because with that friend that is always presenting perfect to the world, it keeps me removed and distanced, because it's like all I want to do is be helpful. And that's how I show you that I care. But when I'm offering, the answer is always, no, thanks, I'm all set. And so it's like, I can't be like, we will never be as intimate as we could be because you're not letting me help. And it's not like I'm forcing myself, but it's just like across the board, this is someone who is like, yeah, I'm good. And that's like, it is an interesting, like it's a spectrum. It's not black or white, but I like that. That's what my brain was thinking about when you were talking about how friends need to be scruffy.
If you walk into someone's home and it's very sterile, and let's say you kind of know them a little bit, I'm never going to be my full self, because I'm going to be reserved and worried that I'm just going to mess something up, versus when I walk into someone's home that looks like it's lived in, I am going to be more casual. And that, for new moms, like, remember that you don't have to be perfect. People are actually not new moms, just anyone. Anyone.
Also, true. Like, have you ever gone to somebody's house and it's not like it's sort of messy and there's stuff out, and like you feel a little better almost.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, cool, these people are normal like me. Like, I think about that sometimes when people, I don't need it. I don't want it to look like some picture. Sometimes we'll be getting ready for people to come over and Michael will be cleaning some absurd thing, and I'm like, they know people live here. Like, we can leave that out. It's all right.
Yeah, Brandon always says that about the playroom. He's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. They know we have kids, and in 2 seconds, it's going to get trashed anyways. So why are you freaking out?
Totally. But I mean, like, you can pick the underwear off the floor. That's valid. Yeah. But I know it is that finding that fine line between like, this was an easy 5 minutes. I feel better. It feels presentable. But like, I'm also not like sterilizing the whatever.
No.
Yeah. No. And like when the kids too, I feel like I've gone to like play dates and I'm like on edge because the house is like perfect and everything's white. And like, I'm nervous, like Nico's going to like, touch something like a piece of pottery that he's not supposed to. It's like, okay, I liked going to the other girl's house where there was just like stuff all over the place, like my house. And then it was like, okay, I can like relax.
You don't have to worry if your child's eating Cheetos and puts their hand on the wall at a good friend's house. It's, as moms, we like to talk about our mom fails every episode because we want other moms listening, or just other humans, to know that we make mistakes and we do things that are not intentional. Truthfully, I never have a mom fail because there are so many that I just am not going to pinpoint one when every day I'm doing something wrong, like letting Arbor play with red chapstick that she ultimately paints her face with.
She's probably eating.
So does anyone have a mom fail this week that they would like to share?
I have one. It's not really a mom fail, but I feel mom guilt about it. And so I feel like people can relate. My 4-year-old wants to cook with me all of the time. It's her most favorite thing. Every time I say I'm going to cook, she's like, please, mommy, can I cook with you? Of course, my sweet girl. I love you. I hate cooking with her. I hate it. She's a horrible sous chef. Horrible. And I feel bad because every time she's like, can I cook with you? What I really think is, I can't think of anything worse.
No. Is she savvy enough to pick up on if you were to give her a little like fake task to do on the side? Is she savvy enough to realize that she's not contributing to whatever it is you're doing?
I've tried that. Not so much. It's more just she actually doesn't want any task I give her. She has a task she wants to do. And I try to explain to her that cooking is following a
Yeah.
set of instructions if you want to, but she doesn't. I'll give her a task and she's like, I don't want to do that. I want to cut strawberries. And like, we don't have strawberries. We don't need them.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megan, you look like you had something you wanted to share.
Yeah. So I feel like it might be kind of a mom fail, and I don't know if I'm setting a bad example. So I will share it and let you ladies decide. Okay. So we were in Best Buy parking lot and we pulled in, and I had all 3 kids in the car, and I looked straight across from me, and there's this man who's sound asleep taking a nap. Like just like this, right?
Yeah, his wife is definitely inside shopping, and he's like, no, I'm gonna hang out here.
So I pull in and like it's like right in front of my face, right? So all of a sudden I'm like, oh boy, okay. So I said to the kids, I'm gonna lay on the horn and then like look the other way. Let's see if he wakes up. And they're like, yeah, do it, mom, do it. So like I like lay on it hard, right? Hard. And I look the other way and I'm trying not to laugh. And I'm like to one of my kids in the back, let me know if he wakes up. So like he like flinched a little, not fully, right? But then like the people in the parking lot were looking at us and they're like, so then I'm like, I'm going to do it again. And they're like, I don't know, mom, like everyone's staring at us. So like we let a few minutes go by or maybe just a minute. And then like I do it again. And like he like fully wakes. I don't know if I was setting a bad example, if it was a mom fail, but I found it was fun.
I don't think it's a mom fail.
I don't know if I was setting a bad example, but I don't.
I mean, you might, but maybe. I'm not judging. I'll just put that out there. Not judging at all.
I mean, and if you want a silver lining, your kids will probably always remember that like time that mom was fun in the Best Buy parking lot. So
exactly.
But they were saying stop to me. The best part, right? They're like, Mom, don't do it again.
So it's not a mom fail because your children knew the right choice.
Thank you, Kallie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Charlotte, did you do anything bad this week?
I mean, yes, but nothing that I remembered.
Nothing at all. This week's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about health trends. I think health trends are kind of both fascinating and annoying because on one hand, I'm like, who thought of this? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And then on the other hand, I'm like, ooh, this is fun. I want to try it. And so I thought it would be great to share with you some of the trends for 2025 and kind of then segue into like our own thoughts about what we believe is healthy and what we don't believe is healthy at all. So before I say that, I heard the reason I thought of this, again, I heard a quote, and the quote was, we have all been wired to see healthy through a small lens. And so that kind of affects what we think is the definition of healthy. And so then I was like, went down this rabbit hole of now I'm looking at health trends for 2025 and so on and so forth. And so here are some of them. And I'm not going to read them all because there's a lot. One of them is wearing healthcare devices like a smartwatch, those Aura rings or any kind of ring that tracks ovulation, your sleep patterns and things like that. There is infrared therapy, saunas and cold plunges, personalized medications where you take a test and then they send you a packet based on, vitamins or what your needs are. And then wellness travel, which is rejuvenation beyond borders, going somewhere to better yourself, like taking a spa trip or some kind of wellness retreat of some sort. And all of those trends, I feel like some of them are newer than others. But I kind of wanted to get your thoughts and see if you're on any of those bandwagons.
The idea of health trends is, yes, I'm dubious because it's all generated like follow the money, right?
Yeah.
I saw a documentary years ago that I can't remember the name of it, but it was saying what you're saying, how like if you look back over time, this was more about eating and dietary trends, but they were you can correlate, like there was a time when everyone was doing Atkins and then everyone was doing keto and, so on and so forth. There's always something that is like right now, everyone's talking about protein. And it's not that anyone is wrong per se, but it is interesting how these notions and ideas of health kind of reach this peak critical talking point. And for the things you mentioned, I can only assume that it has to do with like moving product and someone is making a lot of money. Right now, because of sort of the changeover in politics, there's a lot of discussion about what is it, the MAHA movement. All the dietary supplements and that whole industry makes exponentially more money than big pharma. And none of it is regulated. None of it is really controlled. And it is fascinating that through whatever media or lobbyist or whatever it is, that seems to be lost in a lot of the dialogue. Like we're so busy going after what a broken system this is from an insurance point of view, which it is. And then, that fundamental like a notion that this other entity is just like cashing checks left, right, and center. So I guess for me, it's hard for me to take any of it at total face value. I mean, yeah, I have a red light, like I buy the things and I'm always hoping that it's going to be the next greatest discovery. But I guess in a quiet moment, I'm well aware that this is just like one big money grab.
Right. It's just a trend. And so to bring it back to the quote that we're all wired to see what healthy is through this lens and like what society is telling us is what we're supposed to be doing. And here's the newest, greatest thing. So you should do this to be healthy. And what I believe personally is health is what you want it to be. And I want my children to grow up and think of healthy as a certain way that's not defined by society. I don't want them to think that they have to use this ring to be healthy. That's going to tell them, all of their stats every single day. I don't want to keep talking. I'm going to let somebody else say something.
Well, I think the hardest part for me about the health trends is that I feel like a lot of them are based on feeding off of your fear. Like I can't think of how many of them are sold to us based on, if you use this, this is going to happen. And it's all sort of like we end up buying these things because we become fearful of what's going to happen if we don't have them. And I think that's what frustrates me about them a lot, or how much they will go back and forth, how one year something is really great for you and then the next year for some reason now that's not really great for you. And I think that's super frustrating because we sort of get stuck trying to like which ones are even healthy, which ones are we even supposed to do. I mean, to your point, Charlotte, obviously everything has been about protein, but I've been seeing this new wave now where people are like, it's not protein, it's fiber. And it's just like, you're like, oh my God, like what? So I feel like I've unsubscribed from so much of it because I just feel like you can't really trust anything really, at least from these sort of health trends. And it becomes too mentally exhausting, I feel like, for me to try to pinpoint where the truth lies in all of that.
It also ends up being sort of, I don't want to say manipulative, but like having a lot of protein is good for you. Like the messaging is delivered in such a way that it feels very binary. So like, yeah, we should have fiber, we should have protein, but also, if you don't, your world's not going to end. I don't know. I think all of it is presented as very much like this is the be all and the end all.
Right. This is the golden ticket now.
Right. Yes. So it's not wrong. It's just not, like putting that creepy mask with the red light. I don't know. It may do a little something, but it's not, it's probably not going to make me look 20 years younger. So it's when they say, I don't know. So it's not going to do any harm, but it's just not going to do what I want to do.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's just, I think it's understanding that there isn't one single solution. Like we're a whole person with like so many other, there's so many parts of us from, our physical health to our mental health to, all other aspects. So there's not one thing that's going to work for all of it.
What about you, Megan? What do you think?
So I will admit I'm the sucker that bought the red light mask, and these trends get thrown at me and I get sucked right in. I will admit it. And I also bought a membership and did the red light therapy sauna thing where you lay down. I've done the polar plunges, the indoor ones. I don't think it's good that I do this, but it's out there. And I feel that not like, I guess it's a stress, and also like I want to try it so then I can like tell people I tried it, I guess, or just again because it's trending and it's maybe like I think I'm cool even though I'm not. But I definitely buy the trends, try them, and yeah, I get sucked right in, and it is
But
what
don't
it
you
is.
think it's part of it is that the people that were here, like, gone are the days when you're hearing about this in the last 10 minutes of the nightly news. We're hearing about this from people that we have this parasocial relationship with, people that we like and admire from afar. And so if, fill in the blank, this person is saying, you guys, I've been cold plunging for the last 2 months and I swear it's changed my life. I feel more energetic. Like, look at my skin. I'm going to take them at face value and I'm going to trust that. And it ends up being this roller coaster of like, how can you might find some people that are obsessed with something new every month. And so you begin to be like, okay, maybe that's not going to be my source. But it's very hard, especially when you're on social media the way we are, to ignore these people that we fundamentally like and admire when they've had some epiphany.
Yeah. And it's not to say that I think there's truth and benefit to all of them. I mean, I think there's benefit to cold plunging. Like, I'm sure there's benefit to red light therapy. But I think it's just because there's so many and they're constantly coming and they're constantly clashing against each other. And then they're constantly sold to us via this sort of, if you don't have it, you won't get this, or you will get something bad, is what makes it so tricky.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that it's manipulative. I hope it didn't come across that way. I mean, I think if someone is being paid to advertise a different skin cream every month, like that feels like a different category. But someone who's cold plunging and is wanting to, espouse the benefits, I think that's coming from a wonderful place of, this made a difference in my life and I want to share it. And I think most of the time that's where this messaging is coming from. But to your point, Kallie, there's just so much of it that it's like, I can't do it all.
Yeah, and that's the thing with social media. I mean, I always go back to the thought that, 40 years ago, you might have heard about a few health things from like the ladies on your street that you walk with. But now we hear, we're getting everyone's stories, right? Their stories literally all day long. So we're hearing just about so many more too.
Or the like liquid IVs that like, that's like a health trend too. I don't know if any of you, I've tried that.
What is this sticker that people sleep with?
Oh my gosh. I want to try. See, Charlotte, I saved that the other night on TikTok Shop to order.
My mom uses mouth tape. Oh, she's going to be so upset you called it out. Sorry, Mom.
Does it work?
She said it worked, but then her doctor said not to you. I forget where she's landed on it.
How do you not die? Like, what if?
Oh yeah,
doesn't it? I don't even know how it works. Does it tape your mouth closed?
I saw
so that you'll breathe through your nose.
Yeah,
right.
It was a sticker.
Yeah,
it was very like chic sticker. And the girl woke up and she was like, "Oh, this is better. That's better. That's better." And of course, I saved it and didn't order it, but I saw it and I was like, maybe I should try it.
So please try it and come back and let us know if your life has changed.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
I will. I'm gonna order it when we get off this episode.
Going back to what's healthy and what it means to you, everybody's definition of healthy is different. And, Megan's definition of healthy is what's trending. Just kidding. I know my definition of what's healthy has changed throughout my life, and it has to do with my relationship with food and my body and my connection to my personal mental health and all that jazz. Something I've been doing this year is journaling in the morning with prompts that kind of make me think about different, areas of my life. So how I'm resting, how I'm making connections throughout the day with people, how I'm moving my body, my energy level. And I've never paid this close attention to myself before. And it's really been an eye-opening experience. And obviously I'm only a couple weeks into this journal, and I'm really excited to see 6 months from now how it's evolved and changed and what my habits and patterns are. But I know that there's things that I've been doing forever that I think are healthy, and whether they're healthy or not, it's just my routine. And, drinking water and brushing my teeth and wearing moisturizer on my face and taking vitamins. But I want to know what your definition of healthy is. I know, Charlotte, you're always like, I know what I'm supposed to do and I don't do it. But
I mean,
what
I think
makes you feel good? You know, like what
my
makes you feel healthy and good?
I think, I mean, I guess I will say two things. I didn't grow up with like healthy as a real buzzword or talking point in my family. So it's not something that is front of mind most of the time. But when you ask me right now, I definitely am thinking of more like physical health. And I've always been athletic. And so it's only been, like recently I've had to sort of not come to terms with, but just recognize that what was a pretty okay baseline of physical health, I have reached an age where I think I need to not take that for granted anymore. So I have tried to consider like strength training and just being a little bit more aware of that. So I think my first thought is like physical health, and I don't eat a lot of junk food. I'm not the best, but I'm not the worst. But I think the area that I don't consider as much is sort of the idea of like mindfulness. I mean, I do think that I'm pretty open and like I don't think I move through the world with what is it, toxic positivity. Like I've been to therapy, I'm studied therapy, so I do think that I'm sort of open to that. But you were talking about your journal. I think basic mindfulness is not something that I readily jump into. Like meditation, I don't do. I'm not interested. I don't want to do it. And that probably, like that reticence is probably something I should listen to. It's very rarely a quiet moment around here. There's always a podcast or an audiobook. So I do think that that aspect of health is not, that's probably a blind spot for me. So I don't know. I guess it's sort of a moving target. Like you said, it changes as I get older.
Yeah, I always like to hear what other people, how they think. Mindfulness to me was, I didn't even know what it meant a couple years ago, and I still kind of don't know what it means. And I don't even, I mean, I write about it. I couldn't define it, but everybody's different. Callie, what's your mentality on healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's like the cornerstones of healthy that we all think of. Like you have to eat healthy and you have to exercise. But I feel like mine has changed as I've gotten older. When I think more, and I don't know that I want to say mental health because I don't even necessarily mean mental health, but I think just the way that I think about the activities that I'm doing and the purpose for them. Like, for example, I never was somebody who ever worked out or liked to exercise because I feel like for a good chunk of my life, it was either because you were supposed to work out or because I wanted to work out to like look good, right? Like in my 20s, I went to work out. So I'd be like skinny and I would look good in a bathing suit. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my third child that all of a sudden I got really good about working out and I was working out every day. Obviously, it had nothing to do with looking good, right? Like I'm like 40 weeks pregnant. It was because it made my body feel good. And I realized that it made me feel good. And my days were like, I text Caitlin the other day. We were in the middle of a very deep conversation about Onyx Storm, deep theories. And I was like, I got to go work out or I'm going to feel like shit. So I've sort of adjusted the way that I look at healthy a little bit because it's more about how it makes me feel. Like I eat good foods, not because necessarily it's what you're supposed to do and I'm getting the things and it's the protein. It's I realize that certain foods will make me feel certain ways. So thinking about that and just the other things that people don't always think about as healthy, like getting outside, getting sunlight, these are things that like make me feel good. And so I feel like those are the things that I focus on when it comes to healthy a little bit more than like the basic cornerstone stuff of exercising and eating good. And
Because I was the same way with exercise. Exercising for me was to get faster because I needed to be out on the lacrosse field or whatever. I never or to be, and then, in my 20s to be skinny to offset the calories.
yeah.
It was I never took a minute to think about how it made me feel. And that's easier said than done. But you were wondering what that's how I would define mindfulness is how does it really thinking about how does it make you feel when you eat or do or whatever.
Yeah. And I always think about the difference between like pleasure and gratification. This is something I'm always talking about and thinking like pleasure. Those are like those quick things that you can get. They make you feel good like in the moment while you're doing them. But then typically the moment is sort of gone, where these sort of mindfulness things tend to be more gratification. They might be a slower burn and they take longer to get there, but you sort of get that feeling of goodness for a longer period of time.
Love that.
What about you, Megan?
So healthy for me, and I'm not saying I do all these things, but I try because I know I feel better, is getting enough sleep at night, 8 to 9 hours, and eating right.
Charlotte just almost spit her coffee.
8 to 9 hours, girl.
I try. I mean, I am like, I try to go to bed at certain times, eat certain foods, the meals, not so much coffee, and, the alcohol intake now that I've gotten older, with that's for a whole nother day too to discuss. But, and also working out, that's now that my kids are all older and I have time for that, that is like my time for the day to motivate me. That's like if if I had a bad day the next day, I'm like, I got to work out. I don't like, it's just for me that it motivates me and it just makes me feel good. Like you said, Kelly, I don't know if it's a quick fix or if it's a modification for the long run, but working out, and also health wise too, is being around certain people. Being like, I have certain people that I like to be around with because they make me feel good, positivity. Like for me, that's healthy too, because I feel good. They make me feel good. It's like a group. We just have good vibes together. So now that I've gotten older too, I've realized, there's certain friends that I like to be with and don't like to be with because maybe, they put me down or whatever it may be. But, that's sort of my health is eating, sleeping, working out, the positive people I'm around. And one more thing too, I don't know if this is health, but like these phones, sometimes I try to set a limit on how much time, because I feel like that, is like, that's a health too, is being on my phone too much. And I feel like, so I try to limit that. It doesn't really happen. I try to plug it in and, go spend 30 minutes with Nico or whatever it may be. So that's my thought on how I try to stay healthy.
My friend got a lockbox for their phone.
I used a lock when I first cut back my screen time. I used a lockbox. It was wildly successful.
Yeah,
It's like a timer, right? You're like locked out for an hour or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a good thing. Sometimes you have to put some kind of control over a habit that you have.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
And I guess my point of the whole entire health conversation is just healthy doesn't have to be one definition. It should just be what you want it to be and what makes you feel good. And I really like how you kind of all said the same thing, but you didn't say the same thing, because you can tell what's important to you. And, I already spoke about myself, but you all kind of said something that was funny, I think, about exercise. And when we were young, it really was. I mean, I wasn't working out because I liked the endorphins. I was like, I'm going on spring break. I need to look really good in a bathing suit. That's what's happening here. And now I exercise for a release. I exercise to get away. I like what it does to my mind. So, it is what it is.
Mental thing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so speaking of mental things, let's move to our last segment of our show, which is peaks and pits. And I say mental because sometimes those pits just, really do a number on your mind. Does anybody have anything good they want to share this week?
I have a peak. Finally. I am trying to dust off like some chapters of my business that I haven't had to lean on, but now everything is so different in the online world. And so I have met with someone and I'm finally getting back into my newsletter. Do you guys have newsletters for your businesses? Yeah. And it's I've had it in the past, but it was just like something I did and I didn't feel like I was getting the benefit of it. And I met with someone a couple of times to like basically have her tell me the same thing 2 times in a row so that it would make itself into my brain. And so I've been working on that and I'm hopeful that it'll be a fun way to connect with people. But I feel like that's a nice way to start the year. So that's my peak.
That's fun.
I love that. I can't wait to get it.
I know. Oh, I better make sure I'm signed up. I have a peak. I guess this isn't super timely because we do film these like a couple weeks out, but I just went over I like to make little goals at the beginning of the month, just to sort of stay on track. I make some business ones and some personal ones. These aren't like crazy over the top things. It's just I'm a to-do list kind of person, so I like having little check marks of things I want to try to accomplish. And so I stuck to most of the ones that I wanted to get done. So it felt good to kind of like check those off at the end of the month, be like, oh, I did these things that I wanted to do, and that felt good.
I love that. I don't have a peak. I have a pit, and it's not that bad of a pit. When we got a bunch of snow a couple weeks ago, we noticed the next morning there were lots of tracks in the front yard. And I have just been dedicated to seeing the animals that are crossing through our front yard since my neighbor told me she saw them. And it's 5 deer. And I have this thing about deer. I love them. I just think they're beautiful. And I have never seen one in my yard. My neighbor will send me pictures of them in my yard. The people across the street will send me pictures of them in my yard, but I've never caught them. So the other morning, my neighbor texts me and she's like, did you see them? Did you see them? It's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm sitting in my kitchen and I'm like, where? And she goes, they just crossed by your window. So I'm like, oh. So the next morning I wake up, I get up at my 4 o'clock wake up call and I turn my chair. So now I'm facing out the window and I'm looking directly out in my yard. I stared out that window for 2 hours. You know where the deer went? They crossed on the side of my house and went into somebody else's yard because my neighbor saw them. They wouldn't come see me. Today, the deer came again, and I didn't see them because I was in the bathroom. So that's my pit. I'm never going to see this family. And my Ring camera won't pick it up, and I'm really depressed.
So you still haven't seen the deer at all?
No, I've seen them like at the top of the hill, but not in my yard.
That's okay. Do you hear the dog barking? She's probably barking because of deer in our yard.
Okay, I have a peak and it's been all over social media. I think we even talked about it once a little bit and then we stopped. Skinny jeans are back.
Oh.
Okay. And I saved all of mine from like high school and college and I dusted them off and I'm really excited because I've been seeing headlines everywhere that they're back. And I'm excited because I never got rid of mine and now I can just dust them off and bring them back out. So
I'm the asshole that's like, I will never wear skinny jeans again. No, thank you. Just like I did with bootcut jeans, and give me a year and I'll be buying them all again.
I can't keep on top of jeans. It's like every time I'm not pregnant again, it's a different jean, and I just can't. I can't keep up.
It changes. I mean, it changes every year. But I was like, oh wow, I like so and so said they're back, and
Alex Earl.
yeah, that's where I saw it. I was like, oh, okay. Well, if she said, then I'll wear them again. You know,
well, Megan, I love that for you, and I feel like that's a really nice way to end the podcast.
That is such a I'm so proud of this moment for you, Megan. Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you come back soon. Don't forget to leave us a review if you listen to our show on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on YouTube. Have a great day.